everybody, welcome back to Sylvia's movie review reactions. So I know I'm a bit late with this movie, but I'm still reviewing it because I decided to watch it. First and foremost, K Brothers Junk Removal Services. They haul when you call. So this movie, obviously, I'm going to do a non-spoiler review and then spoiler review. So the movie sums up as a killer who killed 3 teenage girls in the past came back and is killing again. And then they go after I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pronouncing her name wrong. Kernan Shipka. Her character name is Jamie. So they are after her. So her mom name is Pam. And in the past, her mom were friends with the girls who were murdered. So they the killer from the past wind up starting to kill again in the present. And it's after Jamie, and Jamie wind up going through a time machine and going back to the past where her mom is now in 1987, where her mom and her dad and everybody that they know is young again, obviously. Olivia Holt plays Jamie's teen mom. And what I love about the movie is that, is a basic, teenage type of, movie that you kind of like, you understand and probably going to figure out who the killer is. But what actually surprised me about this movie was that it followed some movie tropes, but it didn't follow some. Like the fact that the motive of the killer is not like Jason or Michael Myers, they've been tortured or whatever. Like something actually happened to the killer for the killer to want to do what they're doing, and why they targeted the 3 girls. So obviously in the trailer they don't tell you why is there a time machine. Because when I rewatched the trailer and I was just like, they don't tell you that there's a time machine. They just tell you that there's a killer that killed in the past, that's killing in the present, and it's after Jamie, and then she wound up in a time machine and she's in the past, and she basically tries to stop the killer's killing spree and catch them in the past so they don't kill in the future. Right? Overall, I love the cheesiness of the movie. I love that it's kind of horror, but it's a comedy as well. I like that they played those 2 levels very interesting, because the killer is not some overly buff dude. You start to learn clues about the killer. Excuse me. You start to learn clues about the killer and why the killer is doing what they're doing. So I love Jamie's character, because Jamie's character she's very level-headed for a teenager. And when you really think about it, not a lot of teenagers I know would be so level-headed in this type of situation. And then when you meet her teen mom and her friends, and you're just like, they portrayed 1987 teens excellently. Like, you cannot tell me this was not in 1987. Like, Jamie's character one of the characters from that she knows as an adult, but their teen version is a dick, and they're like being the biggest bully ever, and she's like, unwanted touch, don't touch me, like don't put your hands on me, and he's like, what the hell? Like, he just pushed her, and she's like, unwanted touch, and I'm like, that is so 2023. Unwanted touch don't exist in 1987. You will get mugged, swirlied, pushed, punched, and nobody was gonna bat an eye or care about the situation. They're gonna be like, you shouldn't have, we're gonna look over here. Like, it's so funny how well they did that. Overall, to me, the movie and its characters, because I love that they have distinct characters. Like, Jamie obviously is a teenager from 2023, and they portray their parents, because her parents was at the same high school, and in the movie, eventually her parents get together, but it's like, so it's like weird seeing like your dad dating someone when you know he's going to end up with your mom and have you. So I'm like, if I was born in the 90s, so if I went to like 1990 and back in time to 1990, 2 years before I'm born, and see my parents and they're not, they're doing other stuff with other people, I'm be like, that's just weird. It's just weird, because like, it's like, I know my mom over here, my dad over there, they're going to get together and they're going to have me. But how does that happen? But of course, her going back to the past, meddling, she changes different stuff. So that's where I'm now going into my spoiler review of the movie. So Jamie, the reason why I feel like Jamie is a very level-headed character and she's determined to stop the situations, because personally she was affected by it. Julie Bowen plays her mom, her adult mom, Pam, and she's the mom from Modern Family. So I'm familiar with a lot of these actors. The adult Blake, Lachlan Monroe, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He is, recently I was watching him on Riverdale, because he's Lily Reinhardt, Betty's dad. So like, I recognize a lot of actors. Even Tiffany Clark, which is one of the friends of Pam that gets murdered, I know her from something. I'm like, I recognize a lot of y'all faces. That's what I actually did appreciate, that like I know a lot of these faces, and there was a lot of newcomer faces that I didn't know, like Nathaniel Apaya. I am butchering his last name, but he plays Doug Summers in the movie. So what I liked, I'm trailing off here. What I liked about the characters was that Blake seemed to be an all-American young teen that all the girls wanted. He had abs, all that stuff, and then now of course, he has a dad bod, but still fit. So it's weird going back in time, and like Jamie is like, I believe Blake's character, her dad is with Tiffany in the past, and eventually she gets with her mom, who plays the teen mom version of her mom, Olivia Holt, gets with her, and they have her eventually. But what I liked in the movie is that her dad was like, him and her mom got together after college. After the whole murder spree, they finished high school, they went off to college, they moved back home. They met each other, they dated, they fell in love, got married, had her. And I love that moment where he's talking about how she was born, like how when they found out that their mom was pregnant with her. So what I realized, that back to what I originally was saying, that Jamie's character is level-headed enough and focused because her mom is murdered in the present. They didn't show that in the trailer. I like that. Is that like, it was like a what? Her mom is murdered, but you got to think like she was the best friends of the other three that were murdered. So the killer, but it was like this whole thing. Why would the killer come back? Like, that was like the main thing. Why would the killer come back after going on a murder spree and then is dormant for 30 something years, like 35 years, and then start killing again, right? It's like, why? That was like the biggest question mark. And then the second question mark was, why didn't the killer try to go after Jamie? And who is the killer? Obviously. So I love that in the movie, that even though she's literally Marty McFly, she uses that reference in the movie to a young version of her best friend's mom. The young version of her best friend's mom basically helps her go back to the present. Her daughter, which is Jamie's best friend, is the one that made the time machine. That's why I was just like, why is there a time machine in this movie? So her best friend is sci-fi nerd like her mom. Everybody called her mom weird in high school because she was really smart and she's good with, mechanics. She was basically like, what's his name? He from the Big Bang Theory, like Sheldon. She's like Sheldon of the Big Bang, from the Big Bang Theory. She's into all physics and all that stuff like that, and that's why the stuff that her mom calculated and all this stuff in like a journal, her daughter actually, because that stuff wasn't invented yet to make it happen. Basically, for the most part, her daughter was able to do it in the future. But her mom, given the fact that Jamie tells her that your stuff basically we were able to make a time machine. And the time machine, she was able, now knowing that her like thesis like worked, she was like, okay, I can makeshift something to get you back home. But one thing that I said was a fail with the whole time machine thing was that it ran on Wi-Fi. If you go back in time, there's not Wi-Fi. Like, you will only be able to travel in the time periods where Wi-Fi exists, which I find idiotic, because she was stuck in 1987. If she didn't have her cell phone that somehow had Wi-Fi near the conductor, she would have been stuck there. So I think that was the only stupid thing about the movie. What I loved again about the characters is that you really felt like you were in 1987. Now to the killer. Because Jamie started meddling in different stuff, the killer wound up killing the first girl, which is Tiffany, wound up killing her first. She still it was in the first lineup. But he didn't kill her in the garage because somehow she ended up in the garage and he cornered her and he killed her. But because of Jamie's meddling, knowing that she's going to die, she wound up being killed in a different area, which was a waterbed, basically. And I love the subtlety of Jamie's meddling. There's like a guy who became a rock star after they went to the same school, and after the killing, he became a rock star, like heavy metal rock star. But because of Jamie's meddling, he wound up becoming like emo, because he was suspected as the murderer because he was the last person to see her, obviously. So my whole thing is that as overall the story was, to me, very good. I love that when they were trying to figure out the killer, I love that the movie showed you that he in the present and in the past, the killer knows some type of self defense, knows how to fight. Like actually learned how to defend and attack, right? So you wind up finding out that Doug Summers is the killer. And the reason why he's the killer is because Tiffany and the two other girls that played in the movie, it was Marissa, it was Tiffany, Marissa, I'm trying to figure out the other girl that they attacked. It was, yeah, three girls, and the whole thing was that when the person was attacking, yeah, they were like, oh my goodness, this person knows martial arts or whatever. Then you find out that Doug, he says at one point that he did some type of martial arts in the mall dojo or something like that. So I was just like, it didn't make sense. It would be him, because why would he want to hurt them? And then you find out that a girl that they called fat something, which was very rude, but they called this girl that died a year prior in 1986 because Tiffany and the two other girls wanted information for her, so they got her drunk. They got her drunk to spill the beans and then let her drive home by herself, and she wound up getting into a car accident and she died. And Doug was her girlfriend. She must they were like, she must have told Doug that night, like called him, because she locked herself in the bathroom at one point, told Doug who was there, and that's why Doug killed them, like basically an eye for an eye. The reason why Pam wasn't there and he didn't go after Pam was because Pam and Tiffany had an argument that summer, before that summer hit, and they didn't talk that whole entire summer. So she wasn't at this so-called sleepover when they did that. And she even said in the movie that she wouldn't even allow her to go home. She's the type of person that wouldn't even allow her to go home. She would have made her sleep it off there, and then most likely would have took her home in the morning or something like that. And that gave me props for Teen Pam, because Teen Pam was like, she was already kind of like a mother hen and wouldn't allow something like that. And it made me a little annoyed that Jamie was kind of like judging her mom for that, and it made me mad because I'm just like, you really don't know your mom. Like, I know my mom enough to know that she wouldn't, as an adult, even as a teenager, I know my mom enough to know my mom wouldn't let something like that happen. And if she did, then you kind of could be like, not really giving an excuse, but the fact that they're all young, they're teenagers, and they didn't know better. But it was still wrong. But I love that Teen Pam and Jamie actually had a bond. They grew a bond within the movie. And she slipped up saying that her mom and her dad are supposed to get together to her mom. So her mom started going after her dad. And it was like, and her dad in the future said, we wouldn't have worked in high school because we were too horny and not like they weren't responsible. They were too horny and all that stuff like that or whatever. They, because originally they got together when they grew up, they became adults and they knew better. But now that teen version Pam knew that she's supposed to be with Blake, she was trying to jump on him like white on rice, and they did. The movie, there was a second killer. I thought it was going to be like the same guy, because you meet adult Douglas in the movie. Well, not Douglas, Doug. You meet adult Doug. So when I found out the killer was Doug, I'm like, okay, it makes sense because he said he knows martial arts. So that makes sense why he was whooping y'all behind and y'all couldn't like land hands on this man. But there was a second killer because you kill one of the characters named Kara Lim. I remember her. She was a little annoying in the movie. I guess the teenage version of her was a little annoying. So Kara is the father of the sheriff. So Kara, she kills Doug. But because the adult killer found out about the time machine, you already knew that the girl, Jamie, left and then found out that she was in the past, went after her and came back to the past and then started killing. You're like, okay, if Doug is dead, because he came after Doug was killed. So Doug and the future killer can't be the same person. So now you're in your head trying to figure out, well, who else had a grudge against the girls? And then what sucked was that it wasn't even a grudge. It was the character Chris, who did a podcast from the beginning of the movie. He went to school with all of them. He was doing a podcast. And in the podcast, he needed to revive the story so he could, document it and stuff like that. So he became the killer to basically gain recognition. And he was going after Pam. He went after Pam because she was, out of the 4 girls, she was the only one that wasn't murdered. So he attacked her because she's linked to the original girls. Then tried to kill Jamie because that's her daughter. Because, of course, Tiffany and all the other girls, they didn't have a chance to have kids and all that stuff like that. So he's like, he wanted to complete the whole, like, bloodline and friendship or whatever that he was talking about. My whole thing about that was that it was a surprising twist, yes. But that was the only thing besides the Wi-Fi issue that I was just like, that's stupid. That it makes sense. It do make sense, but it's stupid. It's I don't know. To me, it was just stupid. Overall, I can say that the movie was good. It was a very entertaining movie. I would give it a 3 out of 5. Because you knew what you kind of signed up for when you already watched the trailer. You already knew that it's a comedy, it's a horror, it's going to have cheesy parts, but as a whole, the movie was solid. It was a solid movie that I would watch again. The only thing that did surprise me is the fact that because Jamie's mom and dad got together early, they wind up having another kid. So Jamie comes back from the past and finds out she has a 34-year-old brother. And her name is not Jamie anymore. It's like Colette or something because her brother name is Jamie. And now her name is Colette. I find that hilarious. That was like, me and my boyfriend is watching this and I'm looking like, wow, okay. That one was funny. That I have to say, that one was a good surprise. And I love that the mom of her best friend was like, I was waiting like 35 years to see who won that battle, because at the end of the movie, Jamie's character and Chris, the other killer, was fighting while traveling back to the future. So she killed him, and she was like, you're not making it back to 2023. You killed my mom. And she made sure she killed him. So that was my totally killer movie review. I honestly think it's an enjoyable movie to watch with your girlfriends, boyfriend, not kids. Not. I don't think this is a PG-13 movie to watch with your kids. But I do think that it's an enjoyable movie. So that's my review. So let me know what you think about the movie, or if you watched the movie, what you liked about it. See you later, you guys.